Welcome to Core Concept HQ, where big ideas are simplified. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a concept that, well, it might just be the blueprint for a longer, happier, and more purposeful existence. It's called Ikigai.
And you'll often hear it translated simply as, the happiness of always being busy.
But that phrase doesn't quite capture it, does it? As we're about to discover, the philosophy and the whole lifestyle that supports it are so much richer.
That phrase, though, the happiness of always being busy, it really does capture an essential cultural difference. Our mission today is to unpack this Japanese secret, especially by looking at the extraordinary longevity you find on the island of Okinawa.
Right. We're talking about the home of Ogimi, which is famously known as the Village of Longevity. It's a place that seems to just defy the normal constraints of aging.
It really does.
And when you look at the sources we've pulled together, all the scientific papers on diet, the psychological frameworks, even the anecdotal evidence from centenarians, we've tried to synthesize everything into a clear framework.
The goal really is to provide you, the listener, with a kind of shortcut to understanding and, more importantly, applying the core components of Ikigai to your own life.
Yeah, because it's such a compelling idea. The whole Ikigai philosophy, it fundamentally challenges the Western idea of life, the one that focuses on work, accumulation, and then just a full stop at retirement.
It does. And if you break down the Japanese characters, it's quite beautiful. Iki means life.
And Gai means to be worthwhile.
So it literally means something like value or worth in life.
So it's not just life's purpose. It's more like that which makes life worth living. It's that unique reason we get up in the morning, a kind of core identity that brings deep satisfaction, meaning, and happiness.
That's it, exactly. And here's a really striking part, especially for those of us who, have a countdown clock to retirement.
Right.
In Japan, and particularly in communities like Ogimi, many people never truly retire. The concept of just completely stopping your productive life, it just doesn't really exist.
So they just keep doing what they love, applying their skills, contributing to the community for as long as their health allows.
As long as they can. So instead of that sudden, sharp transition from busy and essential to retired and maybe irrelevant, it's more of a gradual, purposeful slowdown.
A well-defined Ikigai almost acts like an anti-aging mechanism then. It keeps the mind active and the spirit engaged right to the very end.
It really does. It provides a kind of existential fuel, and it prevents that dreaded feeling of purposelessness that can so often come with our idea of traditional retirement.
Okay, so let's unpack this central idea using a visualization a lot of people might have seen online, the Ikigai Venn diagram.
Ah, yes. It's become this perfect conceptual map for understanding how to locate your purpose. It shows the intersection of these key life components.
It's a really useful way to see it because it shows Ikigai not as a single passion, but as this dynamic sweet spot, the one place where four major areas of life overlap. So if you picture four overlapping circles, the first one represents what you love. This is where your passion and mission come from.
Then the second circle is what you are good at. This helps define your passion, but also your profession.
Right. And then the next two circles move outward to how you interact with the world. So third is what the world needs.
Which points to your mission and your vocation. And the fourth, of course, is what you can be paid for. This connects your profession back to that sense of vocation.
The genius of the diagram is how it shows the partial overlaps, too. If you only do what you love and what you're good at, you've got passion, but maybe not much money.
And on the other hand, if you only do what the world needs and what you can be paid for, you have a vocation, but you might feel completely burned out because your heart isn't in it.
The overlap of all four is Ikigai.
But, and this is critical, it's not a quick quiz you can just take one afternoon to solve your life's problems.
Yeah.
The philosophy suggests that finding it requires a really patient search. It's something that's hidden deep inside each of us, and it's revealed through experience, reflection, and just continuous small efforts.
That makes so much sense. It's a process of refinement, not some sudden revelation. You have to start exploring those circles and actively testing where your inclinations, your skills, and the world's demands actually line up.
And the real-world results of this kind of long-term, patient search for purpose are most clearly visible when we look at the geographical context, specifically this concept of the blue zones.
Could you define that for us? What exactly is a blue zone?
Of course. Blue zones are simply geographic regions around the globe where people live significantly longer, healthier lives than the global average. The concept was popularized by Dan Bruetner's research.
And he identified areas with these remarkably high concentrations of centenarians, people living past 100, who are still active and lucid, often without the chronic illnesses that plague the developed world.
Exactly. And the undisputed heavyweight champion of longevity, the place that really anchors this deep dive, is Okinawa, Japan.
Absolutely. The northern part of Okinawa holds first place in longevity worldwide. The statistics are, frankly, staggering.
They are. We're talking a ratio of about 24.55 centenarians for every 100,000 inhabitants. This area is home to Ogimi, the village of longevity. It's this incredible localized pocket of healthy aging that suggests their lifestyle isn't just luck.
No, it's engineered for a long life. To put that in perspective, the global average concentration of centenarians is so much lower. It really does highlight that the unique culture and environment of Ogimi act as a kind of longevity laboratory.
It does, but Okinawa isn't totally alone. It's part of a global pattern. The research identifies four other primary blue zones, right?
That's right. For context, the others are Sardinia in Italy, Loma Linda in California, which has a high concentration of Seventh-day Adventists, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and Ikaria in Greece.
And what's fascinating there is that three of these five regions are islands: Okinawa, Sardinia, and Ikaria.
Huh. That's an interesting point.
This geography often forces communities into a state of self-reliance, which fosters interdependence, mutual support, and crucially, very strong community ties. If you live on an island, you really have to look out for your neighbor. This is absolutely critical to the Okinawan Ikigai lifestyle.
So what's the common blueprint? What ties all these super-aged communities together?
There is a blueprint. The key factors are remarkably consistent across all the blue zones. It really points to a non-negotiable set of lifestyle principles. Things like a healthful, plant-heavy diet, regular, moderate exercise, not strenuous exercise, finding a purpose in life, their own version of Ikigai.
And maintaining strong social connections and family ties.
Exactly. And they all manage stress effectively, eat very little processed food, and they move every single day. Often it's through practical, natural movements like walking or gardening, not intense structured workouts.
It suggests a long life is built on consistency, not intensity.
That's the perfect way to put it.
So let's move from the philosophy of purpose to the tangible physical practices that support this long life, starting with what is probably the most famous dietary secret from Okinawa, the 80% rule.
Yes, the ancient Japanese saying, hara hachibu. It means, quite literally, fill your belly to 80%.
It's a simple rule, but the discipline behind it seems incredibly powerful. In practice, it just means stopping eating when you are starting to feel full, not when you're completely stuffed.
Which runs completely counter to our society, where we're often trained to clean our plate. So, skipping that last bite or passing on the extra side dish, that's the daily practice. You sacrifice a little short-term pleasure for a huge long-term biological benefit.
And that benefit is scientifically measurable, right? The nutritional data is pretty compelling.
It is. Okinawans consume an average of 1,800 to 1,900 calories a day. That's significantly lower than the 2,200 to 3,300 consumed in, say, the United States.
And what does that caloric difference actually do inside the body over a lifetime?
Well, this consistent low caloric intake has been linked to several anti-aging processes. Most notably, it helps reduce cellular oxidation, which is basically slowing down the rest of the body.
And there's more. It also potentially reduces levels of a protein called IGF-1. Insulin-like growth factor 1.
Right, and that protein is critical. Can you elaborate on why lowering IGF-1 is such a key mechanism for longevity?
Sure. IGF-1 acts as a growth promoter. In youth, it's essential for development. But in older age, high levels are often associated with speeding up the aging process and increasing the risk of certain cancers.
So by consistently eating less, the Okinawan body is sort of signaling that resources are scarcer, which makes it prioritize maintenance and cellular repair over growth.
Exactly. It forces the body into the state of subtle, continuous repair, which slows down biological aging.
That's truly insightful. It's not just what they eat, but how much they consistently choose not to eat. But how do they maintain that discipline? It must take incredible willpower.
Not necessarily just willpower. They use some very smart environmental and cultural practices. The way they serve food is a huge part of it.
The famous many small plates technique.
Yes. A typical Okinawan meal might be presented on a tray with maybe 8 to 10 items, 4 little bowls of vegetables, a small portion of rice, a tiny piece of fish, some tofu.
So having all those dishes tricks the mind into thinking you're eating a large variety and quantity of food, even though the overall calorie count is low. It limits portion size naturally.
That's a wonderful takeaway for anyone listening. Increase the variety of visual portions without increasing the quantity of the food itself.
Precisely. Now, let's dive into the specifics of the Ikigai plate. What are the main staples of this diet?
It's overwhelmingly plant-based, rooted in local crops. We're talking a lot of tofu, sweet potatoes, which were historically their main calorie source instead of rice, and plenty of vegetables. They eat about 11 ounces of vegetables a day.
And an incredible variety, right?
Yes, an average of 18 different foods daily. That diversity is key to ensuring they get all the right nutrients on a restricted calorie budget.
And that high diversity also sounds like a natural way to boost antioxidant consumption without needing supplements.
It absolutely is. They integrate several antioxidant powerhouses into their daily routine. One is sanpincha, or jasmine tea.
Which they drink frequently, about 3 times a day. And studies show the polyphenols in the tea help reduce blood cholesterol.
And then there's the local superfruit, the one that sounds almost mythic in its power.
Ah, the shikawasa. It's this small, acidic citrus fruit. Tastes like a tart blend of a lime and a mandarin orange.
But with an immense antioxidant punch. It has 40 times the amount of the powerful antioxidant nobilicin that you find in oranges.
And nobilicin has been shown in studies to offer protection against arteriosclerosis, cancer, and diabetes. It's a dietary pillar for them, not just a casual fruit.
And for comparison, what do they avoid or eat sparingly?
They consume very little meat, pork maybe once or twice a week, and it's usually boiled to render out most of the fat. Fish is modest, about 3 times a week.
And crucially, much less sugar and salt.
Way less. About 1/3 as much sugar and nearly half the salt as the rest of Japan. This low consumption of processed foods, sodium, and sugar is a huge protective factor against cardiovascular disease.
So if physical health and diet are one pillar, the second has to be the incredible social structure. This is where the concept of moai comes in as an essential element for longevity.
Moai is a cornerstone of the Okinawan community. It's an informal, close-knit social group, often formed in childhood, of people with common interests who look out for one another emotionally and financially for their entire lives.
It sounds like an ancient, self-sustaining social safety net. How does a moai actually work?
Well, it originated in hard times to help farmers share practices and cope with poor harvests. In modern terms, members of a moai make a set monthly financial contribution.
And that fund supports group activities like dinners and hobbies to maintain the social bond.
It does, but it also functions as a shared savings pot. If a member faces financial trouble, they can get an advance from the group's savings.
That is a phenomenal system. It tackles both the stress of isolation and the stress of financial insecurity. That feeling of belonging is a massive, life-extending benefit.
It absolutely is. It mitigates the chronic stress that erodes health in other societies. They are constantly sharing worries, laughing, celebrating. It's daily, joyful maintenance of the soul.
That sense of collective responsibility is also reinforced by another local term, uemaru.
Uemaru just means teamwork or mutual reliance. The residents of Ogimi consistently say that feeling like an active, valuable part of a community is a secret to their happiness.
The interviews with centenarians really highlighted that. They're always busy, often with gardening or volunteer work, but they're never in a rush.
They embody that slow, purposeful movement toward a shared objective. They feel useful right until the end.
Which beautifully links the communal structure right back to the definition of Ikigai. The community provides the structure, the moai provides the support, and that shared sense of purpose validates their life mission.
Exactly.
So now we can transition into the deep psychological theories that formalize this search for life purpose. The key starting point here, the why behind Ikigai, is logotherapy, developed by Viktor Frankl.
Frankl's logotherapy came from an unbelievably profound question born of unimaginable suffering. Why, when stripped of everything, do humans not simply give up?
And his conclusion, drawn from his time in concentration camps like Auschwitz, was that we have to find reasons to live a purpose that compels us to move forward no matter what.
It's fundamentally future-focused, isn't it? It's not just looking back at childhood trauma or instinctual drives like some forms of psychoanalysis.
Exactly. Logotherapy is all about the human will to meaning, not Freud's will to pleasure. The core idea is that we don't create the meaning of our life. We discover it, and that unique reason for being can change over time.
Frankl's own life is the most powerful example of that.
Yes. When he arrived at Auschwitz, His entire manuscript on logotherapy was confiscated.
And the purpose that gave him the strength to persevere was the need to mentally reconstruct and rewrite that lost manuscript. He imagined himself lecturing about the psychology of the camps. That mission drove him.
It really illustrates Nietzsche's famous saying, which Frankl often quoted, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost anyhow."
So when people feel that existential frustration, that Sunday neurosis, the emptiness that hits when the work week fades, Frankl would argue that's actually a positive thing. It's a catalyst.
A signal. It's telling you your life currently lacks a sufficiently challenging purpose. Frankl believed we need that natural tension between what we've achieved and what we still want to achieve.
A life focused only on comfort isn't enough. We need a challenge that requires us to apply our skills and contribute. That void, that tension, is what drives us toward our Ikigai.
Shifting gears a bit, let's look at a uniquely Japanese psychological approach for managing the emotional turbulence that can block action. Morita therapy.
Morita therapy, created by a Zen Buddhist named Shoma Morita, offers a crucial distinction from many Western approaches. Western therapy often tries to control or modify emotions. Morita therapy says emotions are like uncontrollable weather. You have to accept them without fighting them.
So it's about accepting the feeling, acknowledging the anxiety, and then forcing the action, which ultimately shifts the feeling. The action comes first.
Precisely. Morita argued your feelings will change as a result of your actions, not the other way around. The goal is to focus on what you can do right now, regardless of how you feel right now.
What are the key principles?
There are three. First, accept your feelings. Second, do what you should be doing. Focus on the present action. And third, discover your life's purpose, your Ikigai, because that gives your daily actions direction.
That mental permission, accepting the dread but doing the task anyway, is the perfect bridge to the ultimate action-focused state. Flow.
Ah, yes, the state of flow, a concept meticulously studied by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is that optimal experience where you're so immersed in an activity that your ego dissolves and time just vanishes.
I think we've all felt micro versions of this. You know, when you're deep in a conversation or a project and suddenly 2 hours have just flown by.
Those moments are crucial because flow is arguably the key ingredient for living according to your Ikigai. When we flow, our mind is in order, fully engaged. The goal isn't just the result, but finding joy in the process itself.
So for the listener who wants to engineer this state intentionally, Csikszentmihalyi laid out 7 specific conditions for achieving it. What are they?
They're very practical. First, you need a clear objective, knowing what to do.
Second, you need competence, knowing how to do it.
And third, you need immediate feedback, knowing how well you are doing.
Okay, those 3 define the task itself. What about the next 4? They deal more with your internal state.
We do. Fourth is having a clear direction, knowing where to go. Fifth, you need to perceive significant challenges.
Sixth, you have to perceive that you have significant skills to meet those challenges.
And seventh, and maybe the most difficult one today, you must be free from distractions.
Which leads directly to practical strategies. The first, and most important, is about striking that balance between challenge and skill.
This is the sweet spot for flow. The task has to be difficult, but not too difficult. Too easy, and you're bored. Too hard, and you're anxious. The ideal is something that requires a slight stretch, a productive challenge.
It's why mastery is so rewarding. You just keep raising the bar enough to stay in that zone. Ernest Hemingway said his ideal state was when, sometimes I write better than I can.
That quote is perfect. It speaks to pushing beyond your perceived limits, but within a manageable structure. Which brings us to the second strategy. Have a clear objective, but focus intensely on the process.
The objective is like a compass, giving you direction without dictating every single step.
Exactly. You need the compass, but you should avoid obsessing over a detailed map. A map can lead you astray, but a good compass always points you in the right direction. Once you start, you have to flow in the moment.
This reminds me of the rule. Rituals over goals. Happiness is in the consistent mindful effort. The joy is in the activity itself.
It is. And that brings us to strategy 3, which is maybe the hardest in our modern world. Single task concentration. Multitasking is the absolute antithesis of flow.
It's the ultimate flow killer, and the science confirms it. We think we're doing multiple things at once, but our brains are just rapidly switching contexts. This context-switching tax lowers productivity by at least 60%.
And it trains our brains to pay attention to everything, the noise, the distraction, the irrelevant prompt, not just the important task at hand.
So we need to actively train our brains to focus. That's where things like designated tech fasts or the Pomodoro technique come in.
The Pomodoro technique, right. The structured commitment to a single task for 25 minutes followed by a short rest. It forces that intense singular focus.
And that intense commitment to one craft is what we see elevated to an art form in Japan with the takumi.
Yes, the takumis are more than just skilled workers. They are artisans dedicated to perfecting a particular manual skill, often over decades. They completely embody the flow state.
You think of Jiro Ono from the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi. He spent more than 80 years perfecting the art of sushi.
He and his son are motivated by the pursuit of perfection in the smallest details, not by money. It's total absorption in the present moment.
But you don't need to dedicate 80 years to a single craft to apply this. We can integrate flow through what's called microflow.
Microflow, I love that term. It's about finding those pockets of joy and meaning in the small, mundane tasks of everyday life.
It's finding enjoyment by adding a layer of complexity or ritual. Think of Bill Gates washing the dishes in a specific order, or the Tokyo elevator operator performing her duties with graceful, ritualized movements.
By applying attention and a clear process to an ordinary task, they transform it into something engaging.
And a quick way to access this state is through disciplines like meditation, which is essentially training the mind to return to the present moment, the prerequisite for flow.
It's the mental antidote to the clamor of modern life. Just focusing on your breath, observing thoughts without judging them. It provides the grounding you need to identify your Ikigai and then commit to it.
Let's turn to the final pillars, how the longest living people move and how they cultivate a mindset for resilience. The key finding here, which contradicts so much of modern fitness culture, is that longevity isn't about peak performance.
That is a crucial distinction. The people who live the longest don't do strenuous, high-impact exercise. They just move most of the time. They're constantly walking, gardening, doing light chores. They avoid sitting for long periods.
And the science behind avoiding prolonged sitting is pretty alarming. Metabolism slows down 90% after just 30 minutes of sitting.
It's true. Continuous sitting dramatically increases the risk of heart disease and diabetes. Just getting up for 5 minutes every hour is restorative. Their lifestyle inherently forces this kind of gentle movement.
And they have a daily, low-intensity exercise ritual that promotes both movement and unity. Radio Taiso.
Radio Taiso is a fascinating cultural ritual. It's a 5-minute morning warm-up practiced by nearly a third of the Japanese population.
And it was historically broadcast over the radio, hence the name.
Exactly. The exercises are simple, dynamic stretching, joint mobility, but the real power is the social cohesion. It's often done in groups in parks or workplaces. For the centenarians in Ogimi, it's a social appointment that gets them moving and interacting every morning.
This emphasis on harmonizing body and mind is characteristic of many Eastern disciplines, like yoga or Tai Chi.
Yes, and these have significant scientific backing. Tai Chi, for example, has been shown to dramatically improve balance, which prevents falls, a major cause of injury in the elderly. It also slows osteoporosis and reduces stress.
And because these disciplines have clear rules and sequential steps, they are perfectly conducive to achieving flow.
They provide that perfect balance of challenge and skill for total absorption. Qigong, for example, focuses specifically on working with qi, or the life force.
Can you break that down for us?
Qigong, which means working with life force, involves static postures and dynamic exercises to cultivate internal energy. The takeaway is that these practices force your consciousness to align with your body through breath awareness, which keeps the mind from being carried away by worry.
Beyond the physical, let's talk about the mental armor needed to face life's setbacks. Resilience. The Ogimi people must have extraordinary mental fortitude.
They do. Resilience is captured perfectly by the Japanese proverb, Nana kurobi ya oki, fall 7 times, rise 8. Resilient people see failure as data, not destiny, and they stay focused on their objectives, their Ikigai.
The philosophical foundation for this is found in both Stoicism and Buddhism, which both inform Japanese thought.
Both philosophies emphasize focusing only on what you can control. Worrying about things outside our power, the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, just creates stress. As Epictetus said, It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters.
And a practical Stoic tool for this is negative visualization. It sounds pessimistic, but it's actually the opposite, isn't it?
It is. Seneca recommended imagining the worst outcomes, living without certain privileges, for instance. By confronting these possibilities in a calm, controlled way, you prepare yourself emotionally. It drastically reduces anxiety and frees you from the fear of change.
Both philosophies also stress living in the here and now, which connects back to flow.
That's the essence of Ichigo Ichiyu. This moment exists only now and won't come again. It's a reminder that each encounter, each breath is unique and will never be repeated. It compels you to appreciate the present moment fully.
This acceptance of impermanence is also formalized in the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi is the appreciation of the fleeting, changeable, and imperfect nature of the world. It's why someone might value a cracked or irregular teacup. It resembles the flawed, natural world.
Which is so liberating in a world obsessed with perfection. If you accept that things are meant to change and break, the inevitability of loss is less devastating.
Exactly. And that brings us to a concept that goes beyond mere resilience, where adversity doesn't just bounce off you, but actually makes you stronger. Anti-fragility.
This is the groundbreaking idea from Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Right. Anti-fragility is beyond resilience or robustness. Resilient systems resist shocks and stay the same. Anti-fragile systems gain from disorder, up to a point. Adversity becomes an input for positive change.
So what are the practical steps to build an anti-fragile life?
Step 1. Create redundancies. Don't rely on a single source of meaning or income. All the seniors interviewed in Ogimi had a primary and a secondary occupation, usually a vegetable garden.
So applying that to modern life, it means not putting all your identity eggs in one career basket. You need multiple hobbies, multiple revenue streams.
Precisely. Step 2. Bet conservatively in some areas, but take many small risks in others. This is the barbell strategy. Invest 90% of your stability safely, but use the other 10% to take many small, high-potential risks.
The genius there is that if most of those small risks fail, the downside is minimal. But if just one succeeds, the upside is substantial and your whole life structure gets stronger.
And finally, step 3. Get rid of the things that make you fragile. This is about eliminating bad habits or stressors, getting rid of high-interest debt, cutting out toxic people, avoiding time-wasting habits that pull you out of flow.
So by adopting an anti-fragile attitude, every setback is viewed as an opportunity for growth, which refines your lifestyle and focuses you more sharply on your Ikigai. You're turning challenges into fuel.
Exactly.
We've journeyed from the psychological quest for purpose through logotherapy into the physical health secrets of the Okinawan diet, and finally into the mental strength from flow and anti-fragility.
Yeah.
It all comes back to a beautiful, complex simplicity.
It does. Modern life is constantly trying to distract us with external things. Money, power, attention. It's easy to lose connection with our true nature, but the journey of Ikigai is about looking inward.
Your intuition and curiosity are these powerful internal compasses, pointing you toward that unique passion that gives meaning to your days. To wrap up our deep dive, let's distill the ultimate wisdom from the centenarians of Ogimi into the 10 practical rules of Ikigai.
These are the core rules distilled from decades of purposeful living. First, stay active, don't retire.
Second, take it slow. Leave urgency behind.
Third, don't fill your stomach. Stick to that 80% rule.
Fourth, surround yourself with good friends. Nurture your moai.
Fifth, get in shape for your next birthday. Move daily and gently.
Sixth, smile. A cheerful attitude helps you make friends.
Seventh, reconnect with nature to recharge your batteries.
Eighth, give thanks. Be grateful every day.
Ninth, live in the moment. Practice Ichigo Ichi.
And finally, number 10, follow your Ikigai. Discover your unique passion and commit to the process. If you don't know it yet, as Viktor Frankl said, your mission is to discover it.
The most profound insight here isn't the difficulty of the search, but the underlying acceptance of life as it is, imperfect, changing, full of hardship and joy.
Life is not a problem to be solved. The mission is simply to live, stay busy doing what you love, and be surrounded by those who love you.
That's the art of living, accepting imperfection through wabi-sabi and structuring your days to find those moments of flow and purpose every single day.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget, at Core Concept HQ, we simplify powerful ideas to help you live smarter. See you in the next summary.